Hey guys, last time I was talking about world building, I mentioned Star Wars, specifically the fact that if they had really heavily hinted at Vader's identity in the first movie, that it would have spoiled the second movie. And that got me thinking that I kind of want to talk about some of the things they did right and some of the things they did wrong with Star Wars, because pretty much all of us know Star Wars. We know it really well. And it's become one of these cultural icons that is beloved in one hand, but also highly contentious on the other, and that makes it really interesting to kind of dig into. So I'm going to do a few videos talking about those sorts of things, interspersed here and there. Now, in this particular case, I was referring to the fact that sometimes it's better, rather than to hint heavily at something, don't even hint at it at all. Just make sure you don't close off possibilities when you're doing your world building, when you're trying to lay information for a later movie. Maybe hint at something completely different, but don't close off the possibilities, because you might come up with a better idea later and you don't want to have to go back and retcon. The original Star Wars trilogy is kind of infamous for these sorts of things, and a lot of the time when you watch it, and particularly if you're familiar with the behind the scenes stories, it was a push and pull between George Lucas and the other people working on the movies. Sir Alec Guinness absolutely despised George Lucas's concept for what eventually became the lightsaber. George Lucas wanted to call them laser swords. That's actually where the joke in, I believe it was Last Jedi, is referencing, was how much George Lucas was actually kind of really focused on calling them laser swords, and he wanted to wrap them in tinfoil and shine colored lights off them rather than rotoscope out the blade. Now that looked awful, so they had to do the rotoscoping, and Sir Alec Guinness at the time absolutely refused to call it laser swords. He was like, no, it's stupid. If we're going to do anything, let's call it something civilized. Lightsabers, you know, and that's how an icon was created. And as I said, in Last Jedi, when Luke says, what, did you expect me to come out, walk onto the field, swinging a laser sword and save the day? That was actually a joke, very much an in-joke, leading back to that particular scene in A New Hope, where Luke was being introduced to the lightsaber by Obi-Wan Kenobi. Now, your writing is probably going to be your vision entirely. So you're not going to get that push-pull that you get on these big productions. And that can be a good thing, it can be a bad thing. A singular vision is awesome. But it also means that your blind spots are going to affect the type of story, how you write your stories. And those blind spots can be important. You don't want to be saying laser sword when you can say lightsaber. And this is coming from somebody whose naming conventions are sometimes really bad. So I'm not trying to say that I'm somehow above this. I epitomize a lot of these the flaws and also the ideals that are inherent in this thing. You need to be aware that when you are creating this singular vision of your story, there are probably better options to take than what jumps straight into your mind. And you need to be open to them. You're not going to have Sir Alec Guinness telling you, no, that sounds stupid, let's do this instead. So you have to be that person for yourself. And that's really, really hard. You know, I don't want to pretend it's easy. It's not. You're going to have a hard time coming up with these things, and you're going to have a hard enough time coming up with stupid names sometimes, let alone the good ones. But you have to put in the effort. You have to think about what you're doing, and then sometimes you got to step away from it and just figure out, just let it go, and then come back a day later or a week later, and it's like, oh yeah, this does sound dumb. I need to come up with a better phrase. You know, don't get locked into your vision. But at the same time, don't let your doubts or other other people's criticisms screw with your vision either. The details, they can change, but your vision for your story, that's yours, and it has to stay pure. Alright guys, that's it for this time. Hope you're all doing well. Keep writing, and I'll catch you next time. Ciao.